Let's talk about the future of the government of national unity. It is an absolutely massive day in South Africa because, according to reports, breaking news reports this morning, the national... Okay, now I'm going to have to explain to you some intra-ANC stuff. Okay, so the highest decision-making body in the African National Congress is the NEC, the National Executive Committee. The next one down, which is a bit larger, is the National Working Committee, the NWC. And Cyril Ramaphosa, the president, has been classic Ramaphosa-ing in the last few days around the budget, where he is constantly saying that the party will decide what to do about the GNU. The ANC will decide collectively, making it very clear that even though he's going to get exactly what he wants, because we all heard that leaked audio from last week when he said that the DA had put themselves into a little box, cut themselves into a corner. He's saying, oh no, it's the party that will make the decision, which is important for him because he's in his last term. People are jockeying to try and be his successor. We know that quite often in the African National Congress, the presidents don't make it to their last term. Zuma didn't and Mbeki didn't before him. Nelson Mandela never had a second term. True. But I don't think anybody would have kicked him at Debo early.
No, I don't think that would have happened.
But Ramaphosa is playing the internal ANC politics. And to be fair, John Steenhuisen is doing the same in the DA. So they had high-level meetings with their executive in the last 48 hours or so where they said that they would talk amongst the parties. And the rumors are, or the reports are, that even some DA ministers in government said it's time for us to walk from the government of national unity. And that's really interesting because the DA clearly sees their role, which is most advantageous to them, is to be inside the GNU, but to basically be an opposition in the GNU, to basically sell to South Africa that we're in government with the ANC so we can stop them from screwing up the country. That's their position. They're trying to be opposition inside, and they obviously get massive benefits because they've got ministers. They can impress the country with their ministers. We know Leon Schreiber, in particular from Home Affairs, has impressed a lot of people with Home Affairs. Dean McPherson from Public Works, I think he's at least gained profile, which is good if you're a politician. I don't think anybody's opinion of him is worse now than it was at the beginning. John Steenhuisen is another matter. You know, it's been over 6 months since Roman Kaepernick, the disciplinary hearing started. Over him being over 6 months, and he's collected, how much was his salary? It wasn't close to $100K a month, somewhere around there.
I'm sure it was. And you can't see me right now, but I'm just shaking my head while Dan is talking.
Why is it so hard to fire someone you just hired? Has he really now made over R500,000 while waiting to be fired?
It seems like it.
Wouldn't it be crazy if Steenhuisen was kicked as Minister of Agriculture, but Kaepernick remained?
That would be kind of impressive, but
this country. Anyway, so grift is going to grift. So the DA came out through Steenhuisen over the weekend and they said, we are committed to the government of national unity, which makes sense for them because it's advantageous for the DA because they can sell themselves as the people who are stopping the ANC from doing the worst in government, and they can do their court cases to try and thwart the Expropriation Act and Bela and the NHI and most recently the VAT budget increase while still being in government. So that's why the DA has come out and said, we are committed to the GNU. But the breaking news is that in the last 24 hours, the National Working Committee of the ANC is putting forward proposals, recommendations to the National Executive Committee, the highest operating body, to reconfigure the GNU, which probably means bringing in new GNU partners to dilute the DA's importance in the GNU. And it's almost certainly Action SA, right? Because we've all been wondering and waiting, what was the deal that they struck, which would cause Action SA to support the VAT budget going through? Because they wouldn't do that for free. There must have been something. And Herman Mashaba, them, are trying to make it seem like Action SA is an impactful, serious political party that should be taken seriously, that you could vote for in the upcoming local government elections. And so far, they've got one big win, which is Mayor Moya in Pretoria, in Tshwane, but they don't have much else. And so I reckon they must have promised him a ministry, or not him, Action SA, a minister position. I think that is most likely. I struggle to imagine them settling for anything less. Don't know what you reckon.
I mean, how do you feel about the other parties that then, were in the same row? The smaller ones, Bossa, good.
I mean, none of them is going to get a ministry.
You think Action SA will?
1 or 2 seats in Parliament. Action SA is 6, I think. True. They were the ones who the ANC could bank on to tip the vote.
The scales, yeah.
And their proposal in the fiscal committee or the fiscal framework standing committee was significantly bigger than any other of the party's contributions. So I reckon that they're eyeing some big payoff that they think is worth, because it's a poison chalice deal, right? Because on the one hand, the country now knows it was mainly them who helped the ANC get the VAT budget through. They need to get something in return, even though they thought they were killing the VAT budget, which they were not. And so the one recommendation from the NWC seems like it's going to be a reconfiguration of the GNU. But it doesn't look like at the moment they're going to recommend to kick out the Democratic Alliance. It looks like they're going to propose a bunch of new rules that all GNU parties have to abide by. And it seems like some of the rules are don't speak out negatively against GNU partners. It's going to be a bit of a problem for the DA and the DA ministers. It's kind of their whole thing. And I'm sure that they're also going to recommend that you just, no GNU partner can take the government to court. Because you can understand from the DA's perspective why they're doing it, but from the rest of them, because it's not just the ANC who are angry with the DA, it's all of the GNU partners. And it's just really absurd that you have the second biggest party in the GNU taking the government to court. And that's why the ANC has framed what the DA has done this week as a betrayal. They've used that word multiple times. To be fair, the DA has also used the word betrayal to describe Action SA and the ANC putting through the VAT budget that is so unpopular. But this looks like these are going to be the new kind of rules that they're going to try and implement. And the DA will resist it, but if all the rest of the GNU partners line up, as I'm sure they will, because they're begging for scraps now, and they're seeing a big realignment that could be in their favor, because if the DA bounces, what's that, 6 ministers and 6 deputies? It's a lot. It's a lot of positions that need to be filled. And I'm sure Ramaphosa would rather not axe one of his own ministers, ANC ministers, to like give Action some power or the rest. So that looks like that's what's happening. And the reason why at the top of the show I described it with a WWE comparison is because I don't think either political party wants to kick out the other. They both want to look like the other walked, right? So that they can avoid being the villain that affected the GNU in the eyes of most South Africans. The DA doesn't want to walk because then their voters will be like, what? You left the GNU? You were the people. You told us you were the people who were in there to stop the worst of the GNU. Now you've walked? Now, what if they bring in the EFF or MK, or just don't bring in anyone else and rule with a minority government, which will be painful for the ANC, but with all these other GNU partners that gets them close to 50%? How could you do this? So the DA doesn't want to walk. The ANC doesn't want to kick out the Democratic Alliance because they don't want to be seen as the ones who broke up the government of national unity. They don't want to be the ones. They've been trying to sell themselves as the great Democrats, who are the mature politicians, who keep the government together, who keep it stable, who are now delivering and like cutting out corruption and all that. That's their whole shtick at the moment. And for them to kick out a GNU partner suddenly turns them in their eyes from being the mature people in the room to the people who take out their enemies and do whatever they want, which, to be clear, they've been doing anyway in the GNU. But like the narrative they're trying to sell is not that, right? And so even though there are many people within the ANC who want the DA removed from the GNU, and there are many people in the DA who want their own party to walk, the ultimate decision makers in both parties want the other one to do the death blow, right? And this move, the reason why I referenced WWE earlier, this move from the ANC to create these new kind of like rules of the GNU and to add new GNU partners that the DA does not want, like Action SA, they are trying to constrict the DA. They're trying to force the DA to submit and walk themselves, if that makes sense. Whereas the DA, they really are not going to want to accept these rules about ministers not being able to criticize and complain, not being able to take court cases against the GNU partners or the government as a whole, because that removes their ability to be the party of opposition within power in the government of national unity. That takes away their whole shtick. And so now, if we move on from the WWE reference, I think we go into the next phase, which is a game of chicken. You may not have seen the classic American film Footloose. I think it came out in the 60s or something. It was a long time ago. It was in color, but it was like the 50s or the 60s. But you know how the game chicken works. The way it works in Footloose is they're driving two tractors towards each other, the two guys, down a narrow road, and there's like a river next to it. And eventually, one of them is going to have to panic just before they collide and turn the tractor away to avoid the collision. It's a game of chicken. Once they get that close, if neither side blinks, then you get a collision, but one probably will dip. And I think what's going to happen now is the ANC and the DA, if these proposals go through, are going to play chicken. I think what's going to happen is the ANC is going to create these rules. The DA is going to break them. And then we're going to see. Because the DA is not going to drop their court cases. They're not going to stop criticizing the ANC. And then we're going to see. We're really going to see who blinks first and who dips first. And I don't know who it's going to be, but I can see a world, because Ramaphosa is good at this. I can see a world where Ramaphosa goes, these are the rules. You broke the rules. And then he's going to position it like the whole GNU had a meeting. It's not just ANC, it's all of us. We all agreed on this and you didn't. You're out. And try to sell, evicting the DA, not as a ANC position, but as a reasonable, rational GNU decision. Because they're going to sell these rules, the ANC, as, come on, guys, if we're going to have a functional government, we need to not be suing each other and we need to not be fighting and criticizing each other. I think that's the play. So if this is what happens, then maybe neither will blink, but there'll be some kind of chicanery. I don't know.
Two things I want to say. One, Footloose came out in 1984. So you were off by a few decades.
20 years?
Well, 30 to 20 years, depending on which
wasn't
reference.
it set in the early 60s?
That could very well be.
I think it was maybe set... I don't know,
now
man.
You're asking the difficult questions.
To be honest, okay, for once I will be the researcher, you make your point.
Oh, my point was going to be that, we've spoken so much, and I think a lot of people are tired of seeing it, whether it be a news agency or a newspaper or anything like that writing about, is this the collapse of the GNU? We've seen it so many times with so many different issues. There was Bella, now obviously this one as well. But there's so many other moments where that has happened. And I think for me, what's even worse about it is, because this one obviously is probably the closest to an actual collapse of the GNU that we've seen so far out of all the possible options.
Yeah.
But I think for me, what is annoying is the level of immaturity of our political class.
Oh, yeah.
Even before the GNU and even now during the GNU, we've just got parties bad-mouthing each other at every possible avenue rather than just focusing on the job.
And it's petty, right?
It is incredibly petty. So now I think the interesting thing to see will be whether any party rises up with some kind of level of maturity throughout this squabble, if you will. Because it's not just a squabble. It's a lot bigger than that, right? The VAT increase is quite serious. But it'll be interesting to see, as I've lost my train of thought. Just keep looking at me.
If any party hits a maturity and actually starts behaving like a mature coalition country would.
Yeah, and with that maturity comes specifically working on the issues that actually help the public rather than these squabbles within, whether it be a GNU, whether it be with just party politics, all of that stuff. We can set that all aside to some extent and actually work on. And this is where it gets closer to almost that Bossa argument, right? We need a budget, so we're just going to push it through. But with that in mind, you need to have that majority to not just badmouth each other.
Totally right. And frankly, I think that South Africa is hungering for serious adults, right? I think we've all got this fundamental disillusionment with all the politicians. And I think one of the reasons why our voter turnout is so low is everyone goes, they're all rubbish.
Yeah.
Which I do believe. But I think what we're trying to do is explain to politicians, make it clear to them that if they can just be serious and credible, then people will trust them and want them in power. But let us know. Honestly, by the show tomorrow, we might have a completely different government. Thank you so much for watching and listening to the Quarter Report. You can contact us on the WhatsApp line. Let us know about all of these discussions on 0607 613 436. Good luck, South Africa. See you tomorrow.